This is Punk Rock and Politics, and today is April 18th, 2017, and this is episode number 19. Let's do this.
These days are strange, it's true.
I would bomb the shit out of them.
If you think that punk rock doesn't mix with politics, you're wrong.
Welcome to Punk Rock and Politics. Today we're talking to the band Magic Child and the Glass Regime about the Provo music scene, social media's influence on the news, and the current developments within the United States Federal Education Department. Then on Open Mic's Last Call, we'll talk about the Day of the Sun and the recent saber rattling off the Korean Peninsula. Is it anything to actually be alarmed about, or just more war hype being sold by the mainstream legacy media to help their profit margin? We'll talk about all that and more, so let's get to the political mosh pit. But first, here's the news of the week.
Here's what's making news.
Thursday, the United States dropped an 11-ton bomb in Afghanistan called the GBU-43, also known as the mother of all bombs. The bomb was reportedly dropped on an ISIS compound after an American Green Beret was killed in the area a few days before. The use of the Moab is the first time the bomb has been used in combat and is the largest bomb the United States has that isn't nuclear. In other war news, North Korea tested and failed a missile launched from a submarine just one day after their Day of the Sun celebration. More on this and North Korea at the end of the program.
What do we want? Trump taxes! When do we want it? Last year! What do we want? Trump taxes! Last year!
He needs transparency. Let us see. Let us see.
Those are sounds from the Saturday's April 15th Tax Day March, where thousands of protesters marched for Trump to release his taxes. The protesters say it is important to know what is in Trump's taxes in order to know his business connections and how his future policies will affect his personal income. In entertainment news, Internet radio personality Alex Jones's lawyers pled in court stating that Jones's outrageous online persona is just an act, or, as they said, it was performance theater. Alex Jones is the owner and creator of the online internet show InfoWars. It is highly unlikely that this news will make an impression on his fan base, but our listeners here at the Punk Rock and Politics podcast know better. And now, if you see any Alex Jones video, you'll know, according to his own lawyers, it's just a performance. A nationwide manhunt is underway for Steven Stevens, who shot and killed an elderly man and later posted the video onto Facebook. The Cleveland police say the suspect is armed and dangerous. This is one in many crimes to be posted to Facebook or posted on Facebook Live in recent months, drawing concern that the viral sensation of committing crimes on Facebook Live or posting the videos later could become an epidemic. On this day in rock history, April 18th, 2012, an original and extremely rare 1963 mono copy of the Beatles' Please Please Me album that was signed by the Beatles sold on eBay for nearly $25,000. All four of the band members' autographs were signed in May 1963. And that's the news of the week! As you may or may not know, we try to use this platform here at the Punk Rock and Politics podcast to promote new bands and artists who are pushing boundaries and creating some pretty cool music while doing so. And today's featured band is definitely doing just that. Magic Child and the Glass Regime is a brand new band out of Provo, Utah. Magic Child and the Glass Regime may be a newly formed band, but they have a very solid and unique sound. I was lucky enough to get the band to join me here in the Political Mosh Pit, but before we get to the interview, let's check out one of their songs, and I personally hear great potential in this song. But don't take my words for it, let's have you hear for yourself. So here's Songs for Ghosts by Magic Child and the Glass Regime.
Desert's heat, you were cursed to a losing streak. The wind blew you far from home, the sand grace, all you know. I think you're on your own. I think you're on your own. You're all alone, singing songs for ghosts. I think you're on your own. I think you're on your own. You're all alone, singing songs for ghosts. Reappearing in your dreams when you fell down to your knees. Rock scourge the path you tread, tracing back the life you fled. No fields knew your name as your cities lay in waste. Sweat rolls down your neck, a night so dark you can't forget. I think you're on your own. I think you're on your own. You're all alone, singing songs for ghosts. I think you're on your own. I think you're on your own. You're all alone, singing songs for ghosts. You brush the moss off an old grave. The fog is stirring as you read the name. Mirrored in your worn out eyes. Your blood runs cold as your fate is realized. I think you're on your own. I think you're on your own. You're all alone, singing songs for ghosts. I think you're on your own. I think you're on your own. You're all alone, singing songs for ghosts.
And that was Songs for Ghosts by Magic Child and the Glass Regime. And I actually have most of the band here with us. Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, good. Thanks for joining Punk Rock and Politics. So we have Jen on vocals, Joe on guitar, and Robbie on bass. Do you guys want to go around and introduce yourselves so everyone the audience can hear your voice?
Okay. I guess I'll go first. I'm Joe. I'm the guitarist. I like pretty things.
Hey.
Marry me. I'm Jen. I'm the vocalist.
Cool.
I haven't been singing for too long, but it's really fun.
I'm Robbie. I'm the bassist.
Woo.
Actually, the first time I played bass, been playing drums for about 14 years, so it's
Oh,
kinda
wow.
cool.
Yeah, that's an interesting transition.
It is. It's
Yeah.
been a fun learning process.
Well, you have the rhythm down, so that's one of the really important things about bass. So awesome. Well, I normally don't ask for a little short bio, but hey, that's cool. You know, we got to know you guys a little bit better right there.
Oops.
Yeah. Yeah, I dig your music, guys. It's super chill, laid back. You know, I was trying to describe to someone what it sounded like. It was kind of like indie rock. I don't know. How would you guys describe yourself?
I'd say indie rock.
Right.
If the Smiths and the Chili Peppers had a baby who secretly was in love with
Tom York.
Tom. Yeah.
Right. Nice. Okay. That gets us a pretty good definition. Yeah, I try to stop labeling bands because every time I try and then I'll ask the band, they're like, no, that's not us at all. So I just let the music speak for itself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right. So, and you guys are from Provo, Utah. So how's the music scene over there in Provo?
Provo's an interesting place because there's seems to be so much happening here all the time. And in terms of at least like pop music, you have Imagine Dragons and Neon Trees that kind of cut their teeth playing here. There's a little venue called the Velour, so that's kind of where they got big. And a lot of other bands that have had kind of more regional and local success have come out of there as well.
Right. So is there a pretty big music scene? Is it pretty vibrant? I mean, those two bands, they got pretty big nationally.
Yeah, we've got to play and see some cool people since we've been here. Jen and I, just all over the board. Like our first show at Muse, we played with a band called Boulevard, and they were sick. There was like a 4-piece funk group, and that was just like amazing to play with. And then we've also seen some 2-man groups. So yeah, it's all over the board.
Right. Nice.
I think everyone here is college age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's a big college city, right?
Yeah. People are just willing to start up a garage band and just be cool with it, and everyone can just go see them, and it's just, I don't know, a lot more accepting than if you go to any other place, I think.
Right, because I'm sure. And how's all the bars? Are a lot of venues in bars out there or not? Because I know a lot of most places, because it's like, it's in Utah, right? Yeah, exactly. See, over in a lot of places, the only venues are in bars. So how does that work out there?
That's kind of more how it is up in Salt Lake. There's a lot of kind of clubs and places that serve alcohol, but most of the venues in Provo they're not clubs or bars at all. They're just straight up kind of just a hall with a stage.
Nice.
There are a few bars. Like I've been to a couple shows at a bar, but they're usually like bands no one's ever heard of. It's usually if there's people that are good that you want to go see, it's going to be at like the Velour, or Gazzo Hall, or Muse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think that's better, having a music venue that's specifically there for a music venue, to go see bands. So I mean,
it's such a weird trade-off though, because tickets are expensive here. It's a little bit harder, I feel, to get people out sometimes, just because there's no alcohol sales.
Yeah.
You start to miss beer.
Yeah. That's true. And a lot of times at the bars, sometimes it's there's no cover even, and then you'll get a cut of the alcohol sales. So you're right, it is. But then at the hall, you have the all ages aspect of it. So
that is cool too. You get to bring everyone in.
Yeah. So I guess there's a win-win on both sides. So that's interesting. Right on. So before we go into one more song and we get into like the political mosh pit, are you guys doing any tours or going out and playing anytime soon?
We're just trying to get gigs. We're trying to get out there and let people hear us.
Nice.
We got some recording coming up as well.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, all these songs are off your the demo. Was it like 5-song demo?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely it's really cool, laid back music. We'll play one more song, and then we'll pick it up on the other side and talk about some punk rock and politics. So here's Bright Little Screens by Magic Child and the Glass Regime.
I want to be in a world that's free. limelight in our eyes. We put our ink in the things we used to read and built a place we all despise. Now everyone's caught up in their bright little screens. You're all enslaved to your sawdust machines, taking no interest in the things that are real. I stop and wonder, are you too numb to feel?
And that was Bright Little Screens by Magic Child and the Glass Regime. So, guys, let's get to the political mosh pit here. So, that song was pretty cool. I really dig the lyrics. We all live in our bright little screens. So, what is that referring to? You want to go more in depth with that lyric?
Yeah, so it's kind of talking about this, I guess, kind of interesting place we find ourselves in modern society where everyone's kind of in their own insular little bubble. Everyone's looking down, looking at their phone or their tablet or what have you. They're all caught up in kind of their own little world. We're not communicating with people anymore. We're not sharing ideas. I think by and large, we're not really even making art or progressing as a society as past cultures and societies did. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of talking about the degradation of progress, I guess.
Yeah, it's almost a total new... I thought that was interesting what you said about art. And it's almost kind of like art's taken this new, like, a meme. It's turned into a meme art. Like, I don't know if you know the Shia LaBeouf, the Just Do It thing.
Right.
You know, so he recorded that for a film school on a green screen. So, recorded several of them. And then they put it out on the internet and people just went crazy with it. Now there's hundreds of thousands of different, like, Shia LaBeouf, Just Do It, like, videos with different things going on. So it's almost like, yeah, people aren't creating, like, old art. It's almost a new kind of just weird art. I don't know. Do you see what I'm saying, though?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I had a professor in college that said, if you look back in history, it's no coincidence that the time of Da Vinci was also the time of the Italian Renaissance. People were making oil paintings at the same time that Da Vinci was inventing stuff. And so all throughout society, the history of the world, you've had people creating art, sculptures and paintings at the same time that people were, creating the printing press and other inventions. And so I think that's kind of what Bright Little Screens is talking about, is that we're not using our imagination anymore. We're just kind of looking down at what people are posting about sometimes, nothing. They're not even saying anything. And so we're not being creative. We're not being imaginative. And so it's kind of a cynical commentary on society that we're not going to be moving forward anymore, because with the loss of creativity and imagination, there's a loss of innovation.
Yeah, cynical outlook on society. That's like right down my road. So you had me at cynical. But yeah, definitely. So let's kind of like veer into like social media in its aspect in this whole internet age, with the people being trapped in their, they'll have a bunch of friends, but they won't have that connection.
I've seen that a lot, where you have people who want to connect with you on this surface level of like, oh, share something funny and I will like it, or share something similar to what I believe and I will appreciate you. But as soon as you like try to use those avenues to reach out to people, like, hey, for example, like our band's playing or we're doing something, we wanted to invite you. And, it becomes really hard to get people to actually want to do something. You start to see how fabricated these ties are.
Definitely. I agree. And I think people see that and they kind of realize it, and that kind of, isolates themselves even more. Almost. Yeah. So it's kind of like a cycle in a way. Yeah, and definitely, like you said, with the bands and getting people to go out You'll have a bunch of people that'll like it, or they'll put their going, or this is the best. You'll create like a event, and then a bunch of people will say they're going, but then no one really shows up. It's kind of like, why did you even say you're going? You don't have to do that. I don't know if you guys like have had that experience, but definitely there is a superficial connection that everyone's trying to create, and it's definitely built over the past few years. So where do you see this going?
Well, I once read an article. It's pretty famous. It's called like "Text, Therefore I Am." I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it was in the New York Times. But basically saying that people are changing their personalities and who they are and becoming more superficial because they're basing their life on what they can post online and what they can say about their life. And so there's famous YouTubers who do things just to say that they did it and to get views. And I just think in the future, people are going to base their whole life on how it gets reacted on social media and how people respond. And they're already doing it now. And so, it's just going to be so odd to be in a world where people are obsessed with how others view themselves and how people perceive them rather than who they really are. It's kind of sad.
Well, I think that's huge. It's not so much about having experiences anymore as it is about being perceived by others to have had experiences. Like if you go to any concert recently, there's people who just stand there and like videotape the whole time, or take selfies of them with the stage.
Yes.
And it's all about showing other people, hey, look, I was at a Rolling Stones concert, and not actually about being at the Rolling Stones concert, Or the same, go to like the Louvre or the Musée d'Orsay in Paris, and there was this one guy when I was there. He went through and he was just taking a picture of every single painting in the place and putting it on his phone. And he didn't actually spend any time with any of the individual paintings. And so he has all these pictures of him being there. He wasn't actually there. He didn't actually experience it. And so I think that's where we're going. That's kind of the direction we're heading in, is it's just about what kind of perception can we convey to other people that we're doing rather than what are we actually doing.
Yeah. And that's great. It's crazy that he was content doing that, because in a way you almost could just go on the internet, Google, all the pictures there and just look at them.
Right, yeah. So
like
why buy the expensive plane ticket and go all the way there,
Yeah. So, okay, this is a little out of left field. So what about like virtual reality? And integrating virtual reality into the social media world?
They're already doing.
Yeah. So do you see that coming about? And how would that even isolate people even more?
I know they've made movies based on that concept of people getting lost in virtual reality, and books talk about it.
Mm-hmm. No. It's just kind of an interesting perspective. I did read a book, speaking of that, it's about a movie that's so enjoyable that it kills a person, because it's so realistic and so enjoyable. People just want to experience a movie continuously.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I think it's everyone hits it differently. Like, I can't really play video games because if I play one, then I just I completely zone out and I lose track of what I'm doing. So, if we have band practice, I just won't play anything. Like I don't even really play. Right. But if I have something going that day I need to be focused on, I just don't want to do something that'll cause me to zone out. So I could see it definitely happening, as I tweet, therefore I am.
That's what I virtual.
Was it?
Yeah, that was the name of the article.
But yeah, I can see that reality. My fear is always you see stuff like Halo or Call of Duty, and then you're like, oh, let's put a fake gun in someone's hands and tell them to run around doing that. Yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah, well, that it does connect into our military-industrial complex, because you have a lot of the drones that are being flown and bombing people in 7 different countries now. They're all being controlled out of Las Vegas, out of a little area in Las Vegas, and they're flying it basically like a video game.
Yeah, it's a frightening detachment.
Yeah, exactly, and that kind of goes right back to we were talking about, that detachment, that isolation. That the screen, how real is the screen? So it's definitely interesting, and that's one thing doing this podcast. It's forced me to go out of my little bubble, meet new bands, hear new music, and go out outside in here go see shows. So I definitely recommend that for everyone. And you guys are out playing, so that's rad. I got a statistic. The Pew Research, they had 62% of American adults access news on social media. So is that a problem or good?
That's interesting because I know, like, when I was growing up, I used to watch the nightly news with my dad every night. It was just part of life. I watched the news all the time. But now, kind of as a single, 20-something, I don't have cable, and so I don't watch the news. So I know, like, just before the podcast started, we just mentioned that Chuck Berry died, and I just found that out through a Rolling Stone notification, So I don't know. It's interesting because in one aspect, it seems kind of dangerous. Like, we're only getting news through one outlet or through one avenue. We're maybe not getting it through the source or, through even a reputable source. But at the same time, you look at so many people in this upcoming generation, and maybe that's the only thing they're getting. And so it's kind of one of those things, is something better than nothing.
Yeah. You're right. I'm the same way. I have a few news applications and I'll get their notification instantly. But I think by social media, that's as far as like Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr.
Right.
Not so much like NPR or Fox news applications on your phone.
No, definitely. That's what I'm saying. Like, even like a lot of things that, because I don't watch the news every night on the television.
Yeah.
A lot of things I get are from the sidebar on Facebook,
Exactly. Yeah.
So if it weren't for that, I wouldn't even know about those things, So
right.
It kind of makes me feel ignorant, That's my only source. But
or maybe if you didn't have that, then you kind of be like, oh, I wonder what's going on. I'll flip on the news. But our culture, we've shifted from that. There's no need to switch on the news now, I think.
You don't have to seek it out because it's just right there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that kind of, it's almost like an avalanche of information.
I feel like social media news is very interesting because I feel like, in fact, I know that people our age, in their 20s and 30s, I mean, I just think they're smart enough to see the marketing tactics and see the clickbait. So I've seen a dramatic change in the clickbait over the years where it's just becoming more and more ridiculous because they're so desperate for us to click on it, but we know it's fake news.
Yeah.
we know it's not going to be accurate from the Huffington Post. Like, no. Not real, but
yeah, I've seen some ads on the side of a page, like, oh, these celebrities lose so much weight. Look at them now. I always like, who clicks that shit?
Right. What?
Like, I mean, someone has to click it, or otherwise they wouldn't be putting it there.
Well, and you notice that it's all those, I feel like it's all of my friends on Facebook who are in their 60s and 50s, and they click on these things, and they share them on Facebook, and you're like, oh, dude, like, no.
Like, Nana, no, you're not supposed to go to that website. Yeah.
I haven't won as many iPads this year, I've noticed, as I did.
Right. I've never gotten those emails from the Saudi Arabian prince or some relative in another. I kind of feel left out, but
no, totally.
Yeah. I guess I have no royal DNA or something.
Interesting thing along this kind of same vein is just thinking about what does show up on social media news. It's kind of what's going to be sensationalized, So it's almost there you kind of run into a dangerous thing that the only thing that gets projected on social media is what's going to get the most web traffic, or like they were saying, the most clicks.
The most extreme.
And so you don't really get kind of just the normal day-to-day like informative news anymore. It's all about what's going to be the most sensationalized and draw the biggest crowd and get the most shares, as it were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one of the biggest part of journalism that's dying is the local journalists who go to local town halls and city halls and cover on that because the local papers are dying.
Right.
Yeah, so a lot of these people, like you said, they'll go look, oh, Trump passed his immigration thing, or oh, the Democrats are doing this, and they'll see these big, huge headlines, but then they won't see, oh, your local school board cut 200 jobs, 200 teachers, and they won't really see that. And that's something that anyone could get directly affect is something locally. So yeah, well, let's kind of like switch gears. Another thing, like, so Betsy DeVos, she, I'm sure, have you guys heard of her? Speaking of Facebook news, I mean, she's been everywhere, and so she's been confirmed as education secretary and everything. So what's your view on education and the future of education going forward?
I think for me, I grew up wanting to be a teacher, and loving my school and loving learning and being in the classroom. And the problem is that the more I learned and the higher grade I got, and as I grew up, I felt like school was becoming more for adults who worked there than for me. And I saw how political things were getting and how many rules these teachers had to abide in high school. You know, they couldn't discipline, they couldn't suspend students, they couldn't teach certain things. And it just really made me sad. So I didn't want to be a teacher because I didn't want to have to deal with that. And even now, you know, with Betsy being in office, I just feel like it's just confirming my worst fears that politics is now completely in control of education. I mean, it should, you know, the government is there to help the people and vice versa. But I just felt, I don't know, it's just taking a turn for the worse, I feel like.
Yeah, it's supposed to help the people, but it doesn't always work that way. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I fear that it's just, she's not going to hit the issues that need to be hit with, because like Jen said, you know, I've seen a lot of where the students kind of rule the roost in schools, where, you know, the teachers are basically pleading students to come to school because, you know, there might be a funding issue. I don't know if it's the same way out here in Utah or wherever, but in Oregon, I remember them talking largely about funding comes from attendance. And if the school is getting low attendance, of course we have to cut off their money. Like, that makes total sense, I'm sure.
Well, and that's one major thing that the unions and the Democrats are really upset about is Betsy is very pro voucher, which pro private school and charter school. So that would provide voucher programs, basically gives, like you said, if a student doesn't go to public school, they go instead to a private or a charter school. Now the voucher, the money that would be allocated to the public school is now allocated to the private school or the charter school, which the private school might not even need that money. The parents are paying a lot of money to get them in there anyways. So,
and the sad part of that is I've seen firsthand, at least in our hometown, that those charter government-funded programs yield no better results as far as grades go than public schools. And so I feel like they're trying to fix this situation and it's not helping. It's just wasting money. I feel like they didn't improve their grades. They didn't improve attendance. It's just another project that didn't work out.
Right. Yeah. It's almost kind of like to fix the problem with lower IQ scores and our grades that are going lower every year. We're losing to all these other countries. I think the main way to fix it would have to change how we look at education entirely, instead of, like you said, just creating a new, let's not do it this way. Let's just do it a private, like.
Even uniforms and better ground and somehow.
Well, even with a lot of the charter schools, they essentially, you just go pick up your packet of work, and go home, do your work, bring your packet in, and then you're done. You're good. It's totally a different way of education, and it's almost kind of like, our kids still going to get that whole social aspect of high school. It's definitely interesting direction we're going in.
Well, it seems now a lot of education is geared towards not really educating, but just getting test scores, and that's all we're looking at is just how are we performing. And so instead of actually educating and actually trying to again progress ourselves as a society, it's almost like we're treating the symptom and not the problem. And that's why you find that we're slipping way behind Russia and China in like math and science scores. And so then you see what they do is we try to just focus, okay, now we need to get our math scores up. And interesting thing recently, they try to like kind of circumvent traditional education. They say, well, now like with modern technology, everybody has a calculator. There's no reason to even learn multiplication tables.
Right.
So there's grades of kids, they just let them use a calculator. And then when it came to like their standardized testing, they found that they performed poorly. Or when they got up into higher level like algebra and calculus, they couldn't do it because they were dependent on their calculator.
Of course.
And so it's like we just try to find this little Band-Aid solution to put on a broken bone, We're trying to think simple, but it doesn't solve the problem. We're not actually educating people.
Yeah.
Again, to just perception. We have the perception of being intelligent, educated.
Yeah, or I've read even that they'll lower the because they have the No Child Left Behind, the standardized testing that you have to pass the test in order to graduate. So not too many people were passing the tests out here in California, so they actually just lowered the bar so more people could pass. So it's like, why even make that a problem? Another thing with, like you said, the testing, the standardized test industry was basically a multi-million-dollar industry, and then once the No Child Left Behind Act passed with Bush and the Democratic Congress, it basically turned that industry, the standardized testing industry, into a multi-billion-dollar industry. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so yeah, it was just like you were saying a minute ago. It is all about politics and money, really.
Oh, easily. It's like if you look, back a long time ago, if you wanted to go to college, you just went to college, but now every college in the country requires the ACT. And if you look at, might want to check my facts on this, but I had a high school professor that said like most standardized tests, like the ACT, the SAT, even like the LSAT, and all the entry level exams that you take to get into most programs are owned by like one company. Same thing with AP testing. Mm-hmm. And so and you pay them to take the tests, and so they have an interest in you failing the tests, because if you take the ACT once, they don't make as much money. But if you take the ACT 3 times and fail it 3 times, then pass it on the 4th, then they've gotten money from you 4 different times. And so there's definitely an interest in them to require everybody to take a test, because then they make more money that way.
Yeah, exactly. And another, I can't believe I forgot his name, but one of the world's most known hackers, he actually hacked into, I believe it was MIT, their database, because he believed that all the information and all the library, the online library that had thousands and hundreds of thousands of documents and books, should be accessible by anyone and not just by MIT alumni. So he went in there, he stole like a few terabytes of information and was going to share it. But that's another example of kind of these education gatekeepers holding this for hostage for money.
Yeah, absolutely.
And isn't it okay? So let's, before we wrap it up here, let's tie both these two things in together. So right now, I can have any information for anything at a click of a button, yet we have IQ scores and testing scores going down. So where's the disconnect?
Well, I think even though there is pretty much any information you want, I mean, there's a wide array of any information you want at a click of a button. We're not necessarily seeking highbrow information. I think a lot of things that people look up, it's like, when's Justin Bieber's birthday? We're not looking up to see what the chemical composition of rocket fuel is. We're not answering maybe more academic level questions. It's just kind of, we're sitting around goofing around with our friends, and we want to know instantly a certain fact.
And I think that what that comes to is, we're talking about, the test scores. It's because we're not teaching children to want to learn.
Yes, that's a great point. I think that's that's such a great point.
When you learn how to learn, when you become interested and learn how to further knowledge, or however you say that, it becomes like a quest for you. It's no longer about what anyone else wants you to do. It's because you want it.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to be said for the process. Like when my dad was a kid, he talked about how if he wanted to learn something, he had to walk to the library, look it up in the encyclopedia and read about it. And so I think in that process, because it's, it takes so much effort to try to learn, a piece of information, that it's going to register in your brain a lot more concretely than if you just type it in your phone real fast, look at it, and then you forget it 3 seconds later, because you didn't invest more time to actually learn that. Yeah. It was just instant communication, and it meant nothing to you.
That's so true. I remind Paul McCartney, he was talking on a documentary about how they would have to go to Liverpool and they would learn 1, 2 chords, go back home, write for weeks with those 1 or 2 chords, because they had to learn them.
Yeah, I hope that, at least I really hope this will happen, but I feel like this generation is starting to realize the effects of this type of mindset of fulfilling test scores and doing the bare minimum and being spoon-fed all this info. So I hope that, I know at least for me and my family, because, we had a teacher for a mother, and we saw this firsthand and experienced it, that when we raise our own kids, they won't be told to just Google it. We'll have books, we'll make learning fun, and It's not about getting to college. It's about what do you want to do in your life? Do you want to be an astronaut or do you want to be a musician? You know, that's, I feel like, a lot different mindset than just getting into college.
In order to get a good job to make money.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. No, I hope you are right. I honestly do. And I think that's great. We could end it on an optimistic note. That's awesome. I like that. And I think you are right.
That's rare in politics.
Yeah. See, we can come together, talk a little negative, and then bring it all positive and hope for best for the future. But I think you're right. I think the younger generation is kind of seeing through everything that's going on, and they're a lot smarter than what a lot of people want to give them credit for. But
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, hey, thanks for coming on Punk Rock and Politics. But before I let you go, can you tell everyone what's the best way they can find your music online and get a hold of you guys?
Facebook and Bandcamp. So right now our album is just Pay What You Want, because we just want everyone to have it. We're just trying to throw it out there, and we've had a lot of positive reaction so far, and there's more to come. So keep tuned.
Cool. Yeah. So that's Magic Child in the Glass Regime, and just go Bandcamp, and it'll just come up.
Should yeah.
I think it did. That's one thing. The name is so unique. If you Google it, you see here the almighty Google. It definitely will come up. Cool. Well, hey, thanks Jen, Joe, and Robbie for coming on Punk Rock and Politics.
Thank you so much.
We're gonna play A Walk in the Woods by Magic Child in the Glass Regime. All right, let's give it up again for Magic Child and the Glass Regime. That was fun interview. I kind of feel like I threw a few like left field questions or questions out of left field, especially like the virtual reality question and a few of them. They were just kind of like, what? So I figured they were really good sports for that interview. So I'd like to thank Magic Child and the Glass Regime again for coming on, and let's get to open mic's last call. And what are we going to talk about today? Oh yes, more warmongering. So another week has gone by, and now we're not warmongering on Syria anymore. Now we're warmongering on the Korean Peninsula. Awesome. Sweet. So, okay, where do we even start with this? So I noticed that the news was really pushing this, the Day of the Sun, Korea's going to test their weapons, and it's going to be such a big deal, and then Trump could, the USS Carl Vinson is out there, and that could start a war, and it's World War III, and they were showing live coverage of North Korea's parade, the propaganda parade, which I'm sure Kim Jong-un just loved you playing his little propaganda parade going through there. But of course, the mainstream media bought into it, and they needed to sell fear in order to get people to watch these, cable news shows. So basically, what's the Day of the Sun? That's basically Kim Jong-un's his grandfather, which is Kim Il-sung. It's his birthday, April 15th, 1912. So this is the 105th birthday of the great leader. I think he was the first leader of North Korea. So, or since since America went in and they went kind of insane fascist and just full blown isolationist. So really, the more and more I was reading up on this, I guess we had a different way of dealing with them up until the 90s, and then we kind of shifted policies, and actually Clinton was actually considering bombing North Korea back in the 90s and just never ended up doing it. So what happened is America and a lot of the rest of the world in the 90s took a hands-off approach, and that's where China kind of had to deal with everything with them. And that's why China is pretty much their number one ally, and the only country that really has any say or any control. They supply like 80% of everything they get is from China. So I still think the whole North Korea could bomb America and it's going to start World War III, that's a little overblown, because first of all, North Korea, they have nuclear bombs, which everyone's blaming Obama, but we need to go back and remember Bush was in office when Kim Jong-un, I think it was, or I don't know, his father was testing them in 2006 is when North Korea actually got nuclear capabilities, basically, because we were focusing on, if you don't remember, that's when the surge, 2006, with Iraq, the surge was going on, when we invaded that country that has nothing to do with 9/11, and then it was going horribly, so we're like, hey, let's send more troops in there. So that was pretty much when we were completely distracted in 2006, and that's what let this happen. Bill Clinton kind of dropped the ball, gave it over to China, and then we just let this problem happen, and now we have Trump in there, and we're expecting Trump, America's problem, to fix this international world problem that we've been neglecting for decades. So that's, first of all, that's just stupid. You don't let Trump fix an actual serious problem. Trump, there's not much he could really fix and do. He's more of a figurehead, and as a CEO even, he's more of the gold shiny Trump brand that sells the thing. He doesn't actually come up with the idea. So to have him go out there and try to fix this problem is, I think, that's a little hasty. But the problem is, we can't just let North Korea do anything. Now, will this start World War III? I do not think so. I think our bombing in Syria, like we were talking about last week on the last podcast, I think that's a lot more serious, and that could actually start World War, especially with starting some sort of provocation with the Russians, and since there's kind of like just a proxy war already going in there, with Saudis, Qatar, us, and then on the other side it's kind of, and then Turkey's in there, and then you have Russia and Iran funding Assad. So you kind of have this proxy war going on there that could really go hot and really not be a proxy war anymore and more become a full-blown war against nation states, which is something we haven't really seen since the end of the Cold War. We haven't really seen nation states go to war. We just have terrorist organizations or these little mini proxy wars that are funded by nation states. So the thing with North Korea is just basically keeping him contained. And if I lived in Seoul, South Korea, if I knew anyone who lived in Seoul, South Korea, I would be definitely very concerned about something that could happen there if North Korea could bomb them. Definitely. They're, 33 miles away from the border, I believe, of North Korea. So leveling Seoul would definitely be possible for the North Korea regime, and it definitely wouldn't be out of something that they would do if they were provoked in us not by us, the U.S. So I just don't. I don't understand how. I understand if you're in Seoul, you want the protection of America and our troops, but you got to kind of be like, stop sending these armada battleships outside of North Korea when they're going to do this celebration that they do every single year. They do the Day of the Sun every single year. So to make a big deal about it this year is a little, what's the word? Oh yeah, disingenuous by the mainstream legacy media to do that. So we should all just kind of take a step back and just relax. This isn't going to cause World War III. If anything, this could cause definitely a conflict on the peninsula, but it's not going to cause World War III. If anything does happen, it would force America and China to work closer, and maybe our relations would get even better, which that wouldn't be a problem, because we definitely want American and Chinese relations to be positive, especially in the coming 50 years or more, because China is a growing superpower, and eventually their economy and their middle class will overtake America, and being on their good side would be a good idea then. So I'm going to kind of wrap it up right about now, but so just everyone needs to chill out about the North Korean thing. It's not going to start a war, and this is the main thing. I was talking to a friend, and it was like, no, we're not going to attack Korea. And why not? Like we were reporting in the news, we dropped the mother of all bombs, 11 ton nuclear or explosion right under nuclear power, or nuclear explosion. So it's a huge bomb, the mother of all bombs, the largest non-nuclear bomb to be dropped, in battlefield. So Trump did that out of the blue. He didn't tell anyone. He didn't warn anyone. This is what he's saying on the campaign trail, what he was going to do. He was complaining that Obama and John Kerry and Hillary Clinton, they go out, even probably George Bush, they go out and they would say, oh, here's where we're going to bomb. We're going to bomb it at this time. So Trump has been saying that's not the way to go. So, and then also with the Syrian strike, that was kind of out of the blue, but he did call and let the Russians know. So these actual strikes that he's doing are completely out of the blue. We don't know about it. He's not announcing it. So that's how Trump's going to operate, which is kind of terrifying, because at any moment you could just turn on the news or get a notification, or get it on Facebook like we were talking earlier. Whatever your way of getting news is, you might just get a news notification, and all of a sudden it says, oh, we shot this a Russian base, or we shot a new nuke here, who knows, anytime. So I kind of see it as I see it as saber rattling. I see it as kind of war posturing. We're just trying to terrify the North Koreans, especially with dropping the Moab and then this. So I would not be too concerned if Trump is going around talking about blowing things up or sending a huge armada fleet somewhere. It doesn't seem like that's going to create a huge problem per se right now, but if it escalates, it could. But I don't think anything's going to happen, because he sent the fleet. If he didn't send the fleet, if it was just a quiet submarine with a nuke and then he leveled them, who knows? That would be more up Trump's field, which, like I said, is terrifying. That's absolutely terrifying. So, Oh man, these are crazy times, and I promise next week or so I'm not going to talk about war unless if, like I said, Trump just goes and blows something up. So hopefully we'll have something more uplifting to talk about. But thanks for checking out Punk Rock and Politics. This is Open Mic's Last Call, and we will check you next week. Thanks for checking out Punk Rock and Politics. If you enjoyed the show and the information brought to you, please subscribe and share the podcast. It helps us here at Punk Rock and Politics, but more importantly, it helps the featured bands gain exposure. Also, if you know any bands or musicians who would like to join the political mosh pit and have their music featured on the Punk Rock and Politics podcast, please email us at punkrockandpolitics@gmail.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time. And rock on, political junkies.
I think all our society is run by insane people for insane objectives.
Doing a better job of talking to each other. The left hand now knows what the right hand is doing.
Look at those hands. Are they small hands? And he referred to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small. I guarantee you there's no problem. I guarantee it.